line, you can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and I be going for the win. Remember back when they was doubting on the kid. Now they tuned in cause my game too legit.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there today, where we're going to have some fun again here talking about safety, right? Not safeties, no, because they don't really pertain to us much in fantasy football. We're talking about safe players here for 2021. Now, we've already talked about running backs here earlier in the week. So today, talking about them ball catchers. That's right, the wide receivers here for 2021 fantasy football. Who are some of the safer options that we should maybe target here? Now, we're trying to switch things up a little bit, right? We want this content to be new and fresh and exciting and different than everyone else. It's what we do every single year. So we're going to do this one a little bit differently, similar to what we do with the running backs, to try to provide some content to you to maybe make you think a little bit differently, maybe not give you every answer, but provide you with maybe what you should be looking at when you're making your decisions during your fantasy football draft. Our draft guide is now released and we are super pumped for it. If you're looking for a way to dominate fantasy football in 2021, head over to fantasyheadliners.com after this episode is over and get your draft guide right now. But let's talk about some ball catchers. But what does it take for them to be a safe wide receivers? What are we looking at here when we're really talking about safety at the wide receiver position? Well, there's a few more things for wide receivers that we look at than maybe we do for running backs, right? So, we need them on the field, right? Well, we can figure that out with games played. We need to get them the ball, right? They have to have that opportunity to get the ball, so we got to look at targets. We need them to be able to get open, right? That's cool if the targets are going their way, but are they completely covered by their defenders because they can't get open? We can do that and look at target separation, possibly. What about, we need the targets to be catchable, right? Well, just because a target is going their way doesn't mean that they have that opportunity to catch it. We're looking at quarterback accuracy there, and we can kind of take a look at maybe the catchable target rate for that metric. How about, let's see, we need them to actually catch the targets that are catchable, right? So make sure we're looking at drop percentage and catch rate. That's something we can look at as well. We need them to gain yards when they actually get the football. Yards after catch is a very good metric for that. What about red zone opportunities? We love them TDs, right? All about that TD life. And we also need those touches to accumulate into fantasy points. So we can look at fantasy points, total fantasy points per game on average. And this is kind of how we're going to do this. I have the current top 36 wide receivers as far as ADP goes here, and I did remove the rookies, right, because we can't go back and see who's safe if they've never played before, so the rookies have been removed. The top 36 other wide receivers here on the list. Now, we're going to go through all these different metrics, but like I said in the running back video, if I pop up the rankings, the names, their statistical achievements in those categories, it's going to look like a jumbled mess. So we're only going to look at the top 12 for each metric. However, at the end of the show, I will show you my overall spreadsheet with all the numbers for all the players if you're interested in looking at that. So let's go ahead, and here we go. We see all the names up on the screen, but let's head over to average games played per year, because remember, we need them to be on the field. And the first thing you notice here on this metric is there's actually guys who average 16 games a year, right? We didn't really see that with the running back position, but we do see it with wide receiver. Tyler Lockett, T. Higgins, Chase Claypool, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, DK Metcalf, all younger guys, really, except for, Tyler Lockett, right? Justin Jefferson also played all 16 games. So the youth movement at the wide receiver position, they like to stay healthy for the most part, which is a good thing here moving forward. Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, DeAndre Hopkins, all sitting right there at 15.6. So they've probably only missed about one game over the last 3 years or so. And then you have Deontay Johnson and Robbie Anderson coming in there at 15.3. We know this going in, right? Wide receivers have a better opportunity at playing all 16 games than maybe you would from some of your stud running backs, which we saw here just the other day, but we like them to be on the field, right? So these are the guys that we know. What is it? 7 guys that we see right here on the top of the list that have averaged playing 16 games. Sure, small sample size because they're young, but take it for what it's worth. What about average targets per year? So they're on the field. Are they getting the football? Are they being targeted by their quarterback? Well, here's the top 12 here. Is it a surprise that DeAndre Hopkins is at the top of the list? It really shouldn't be, right? No matter where he's been, whether Arizona or Houston, dude sucks up targets. Same for Devontae Adams. Keenan Allen, it's a little bit of a surprise, right, to see Keenan Allen that high, right? 144 targets a year. That's a great number and a high-powered offense there with Justin Herbert. Stephon Diggs. This includes some Minnesota numbers and some Buffalo numbers, so we know he's somebody that's going to soak up some targets. Same with Allen Robinson. Robert Woods, a little bit of a surprise for some people maybe. We always talk about Robert Woods right there on the 4th, 5th, 6th round every single year, and he's a safe, reliable wide receiver. Julio Jones, we know when he's healthy, he soaks it up, but how healthy is he? Well, I didn't see his name under the average games played list, so we know that injuries are a concern. Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson, Tyler Boyd. Does Tyler Boyd take a hit, though, with the addition of Jamar Chase? What about Mike Evans? And then rounding it out, Juju. A lot of people off the Juju bandwagon, but Juju soaks up targets every single year. He's definitely somebody that you know is going to go out on a yearly basis and get you 120 targets. The numbers, the production may be down slightly from what it was years ago, but if you're in a full PPR league, those targets turns into receptions and really helps out your fantasy team, especially at a discounted price like you'll get in 2021. So now that they're getting the targets, can they separate? Can they get open from those targets that they're receiving? And when I was pulling all these numbers, I really wasn't expecting Tyler Lockett to be number one overall in this metric. 2.17 yards of separation on each target. That means that there's like 6 feet between him and the closest defender at the time of being targeted. Tyler Lockett is basically playing football on the field by himself at times because there's nobody else around him. That is a huge number. But you can also look at Davante Adams just behind him at 2.13. And this is what separates Davante Adams from everybody else. Everybody on the football field, for the most part, knows when Aaron Rodgers drops back to pass, majority of the time, he's going to Davante Adams. If we know that as fans, as analysts, I guarantee you the opposing NFL defense knows that as well, and they try to take him away, and it still doesn't matter. Davante Adams is an absolute beast with 2.13 yards of separation per target. So that's nuts. Deebo Samuel, someone who we can get him on the field, right? He could produce some big numbers. Know about Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill. Those really aren't surprises. Odell Beckham at 1.82. A little bit of a surprise, right? Because we don't get to see him very much, but I think we kind of lose the talent that is there. And it gets wrapped up with everything else that surrounds Odell Beckham, right? And a lot of people just want to write him off non-football based things. So Odell Beckham can still get open. Don't be fooled. Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Robbie Anderson, another name that make an appearance here. Mike Evans, and then Jerry Jeudy. We know Jerry Jeudy can get open. The problem is when the football's thrown his direction, it's nowhere near his hands. What about catchable target rate? And catchable target rate is going to be what percent of their targets that they received were deemed catchable, right? So for Chris Godwin, I mean, we know he's got Tom Brady slinging it to him. He's got 89.3%, followed by Kenny G, which Kenny G's got a different quarterback, but a better quarterback this year? No, probably not. No, he's not going to be any better than Matthew Stafford. So that number could go down here just slightly if Daniel Jones does not take a step forward. We know about Davante Adams, Curtis Samuel. The accuracy was there because he wasn't going very far down the field very often. Teddy B gave him the ball where he needed last year in Carolina, and that boosted those numbers. Really don't expect much different from Fitzmagic if they want to check down to Curtis Samuel and use him a little bit more across the middle of the field. T. Higgins, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. We got Robbie Anderson in there. So you see both Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson, both 2 Carolina Panthers. So if Teddy B can get the job in Denver, maybe that bodes well for the likes of a Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, even a KJ Hamler or Noah Fant, right? Deebo Samuel, Tyler Lockett showing up once again, obviously with Russell Wilson there. And then Tyler Boyd continues to find ways to finish inside the top 12. Man, what could Tyler Boyd be if he had more opportunity in this offense? Now they have T. Higgins as of last year. Now Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd going to take a hit, but dude would produce, right? So now we know what percentage of their targets are catchable. Are they actually catching them, or are they dropping everything? So here's the top 12 in catch rate. We got Curtis Samuel, Chris Godwin, Davante Adams, Tyler Lockett up here once again. Juju all the way up at number 5. Now, part of that is because Juju's getting all these targets. He's racking up receptions, but he's not going very far down the field. But that bodes well because Big Ben can't go deep down the field very often, at least an entire season anymore. Stephon Diggs, great hands. Deebo Samuel, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, Michael Thomas, Tyler Boyd Tyler Boyd will not go away. Really, Tyler Boyd once again 71.8%, and then round out the top 12 with Amari Cooper at 70.8. All these guys over 70% catch rate is definitely a number that you want to see from your wide receivers. All right, so now they've caught the ball, right? The ball is in their hands. What are they going to do with it? We need extra yards after the catch. So here's some leaders in yards after catch, and look at Davante Adams. So Davante Adams creates separation, right? We saw that. He's got great hands, and then he makes things happen. This is why Davante Adams is as great as he is. Really hope Aaron Rodgers stays there in Green Bay so this can continue for all the Davante Adams owners. Followed by Cooper Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp did that with Jared Goff. Now he gets Matthew Stafford, and those are already some great numbers. I think Cooper Kupp has a little bit of sleeper potential in him here, because right behind him is who? Robert Woods, his teammate. They make things happen after the catch in LA, and now with Matthew Stafford, it wouldn't surprise me to see those numbers get a slight increase. Got Robbie Anderson, Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs, then Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, really not a huge surprise there, right? Keenan Allen really isn't known for those big plays. He's known for the sure-handed, great route running, moving the chains, but Keenan Allen can move the ball down the field once it's in his hands. Same with A.J. Brown, Amari Cooper, and then once again, there's Juju, right? Juju kind of like Tyler Boyd. We don't have Tyler Boyd in this slide, but dang, Juju and Tyler Boyd just popping up all over the place here in these stats. What about red zone targets? And we're kind of progressing this all the way through the play, right? So now that they're making yards after the catch happen, how many targets are they getting in the red zone so we can score some tutties, right? That's what we're looking for, some tutties here on a yearly basis. Davante Adams, 27 red zone targets is an insane number. In fact, the top 3 on this list, all to be over 20, is a great number. Adam Thielen, we know he's kind of there to score touchdowns, right? Really utilized more inside the red zone than he is across the rest of the field. That's where Justin Jefferson excels. Calvin Ridley, does that number increase now that Julio Jones is not in town? Julio really wasn't known for being active that much in the red zone, and plus now they have Kyle Pitts, so I really don't expect that number to increase. And then, Juju Smith-Schuster wants to pop in here once again at number 4. I mean, can't get rid of Juju, right? I mean, Juju just hanging around. He's surprising me a lot as we go through these things. 19 red zone targets is great because we know now once Ben gets inside the red zone, he's got a lot of options, right? He's got Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Chase Claypool, but he's looking the way of Juju. And that's huge because Juju can rack up receptions and find the end zone as well. Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, kind of some usual suspects there, right? What about DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen? Love to see Keenan Allen pop up here, right? Because as we've talked about him in a few of these different metrics, he's kind of checking the box everywhere, right? I mean, Keenan Allen just seems to me like he's a pretty safe receiver. Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, and then rounded out with DK Metcalf there in Seattle. So now, all this production that these guys have accrued, what does that turn into fantasy point-wise? Well, here's the leaders in fantasy points per game. Is it a shocker that Davante Adams is at the top? No, it really should not be. Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen there once again, followed by A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett finding his way up there at 16.6. I can hear you out there. I heard you say that. You're saying, yeah, but Tyler Lockett gets all those points in like 4 games a year. That is a true statement. I cannot argue that whatsoever. However, on the weeks that Tyler Lockett explodes, more than likely he leads you to victory, right? So it all depends on roster construction and when you can get him and how reliant you are on him. But Tyler Lockett ticking a lot of boxes here as well. Then we round out the top 12 here with Allen Robinson. So this is what I did. I went through each of those metrics, and I assigned each wide receiver a point value of 1 to 36, 36 being the highest performer in that category. I did that for each and every one of these sections, and then I totaled them up at the end, sorted by the most, just to see, okay, what would happen if they all got this score. How would the rankings look at the end? How would the standings look if we did that? Is it kind of line up with what we think it does? And here's the final top 12. Number 1, Davante Adams, no surprise there. I think he's basically penciled in as a safe wide receiver as long as Aaron Rodgers is his quarterback. Stephon Diggs, that's pretty surprising, right? I like to see Stephon Diggs up there at number 2, followed by Justin Jefferson. Tyler Lockett finished 4th. Wasn't really expecting Tyler Lockett to finish this high, right? Because of the inconsistencies, and they do. Those inconsistencies inflate the numbers, but the numbers don't lie. The guy can still get open. If his targets could increase, we could see a much better year from Tyler Lockett. We got DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill, no surprise there. Robbie Anderson finishing 7th. How does Robbie Anderson perform this year? They drafted Terrace Marshall Jr., but Robbie Anderson's old quarterback in New York was Sam Darnold, who's now in Carolina, so they already have that chemistry. I think Robbie Anderson has some decent sleeper potential. Not somebody who I would want to rely on weekly, but still a solid option. DK Metcalf, Allen Robinson, Robert Woods finishing up here once again. And then Amari Cooper finishing 12th. But there's a little asterisk below it, however, because Juju and Cooper Kupp finished tied with Amari Cooper for 12th. The fact that Juju's in there for as much hate as he gets is absolutely crazy. So let me throw up this entire spreadsheet so you can see what I made as we went through this entire process. You can see everybody's grades, scores, stats for each section if you're interested. There are a few key areas that I want to kind of highlight that kind of caught me off guard when I was going through it. The first thing is there wasn't one wide receiver out of all 36 of them, even Davante Adams, that finished inside the top 10 in each category. Davante Adams didn't get it, right? He didn't get it in average games played because he's missed some time. He finished with 11 points there in that session. He didn't finish inside the top 10, so knocked him out. Nobody else did, though, which is crazy. But what I find even more interesting, there is not one other wide receiver on this list that finished inside the top 15 in all categories except Stephon Diggs. He finished top 15 in every one of these categories. And can we really go into this season and say that it's going to be a lot different? Are there a lot of question marks surrounding Stephon Diggs? There's really not, right? I mean, there's question marks surrounding most of these guys with different quarterbacks or who's going to be their quarterback or how healthy are. We don't have those concerns with Stephon Diggs. So Stephon Diggs is skyrocketing up rankings and up lists here right now. Tyler Lockett did catch me off guard. Like I said, I wasn't expecting him to finish so highly. I mean, you can look at like target separation, catchable target rate, catch rate. I mean, he's finishing towards the top in all those categories, especially with fantasy points per game as well. Robbie Anderson, surprising that he's this high, right? Juju, I mean, we can talk about Juju again here, and you can see how he was tied with Amari Cooper and Cooper Kupp there with 174 total points. Juju is going to be a safe guy, right? Is he going to have that high ceiling? No. And a lot of people want to go out and they want to have that high ceiling, but they're not willing to kind of sacrifice for the safety. Every once in a while, you have to have a good mixture in fantasy football of safety and some high upside risk, right? If you take some risk early and you need some safety a little bit later, that's where the likes of maybe a Cooper Kupp or a Juju could kind of help fill out a roster there in the middle round. So I love to see that, especially over guys the likes of Julio Jones and Adam Thielen and some guys that are going a little bit earlier. Mike Evans is a little bit surprising. I expected him to be a little bit higher up this list, but he's got a lot of people to compete with for targets, right? He's not there by himself in Tampa Bay getting the ball from Tom Brady. So it's interesting to see these types of things, right? I mean, and this is why it's fun to go through things a different way. I can put up pictures and I can go through some bullet points, but actually painting a picture, a complete picture from the time that they step on the field till they walk into the end zone or they score their fantasy points, we kind of walk through the entire progress of that. And that's what makes these so fun because it's just a little bit different, right? Hopefully you enjoy it. If you do me a favor, hit the like button down below because we're trying to be as interactive as we possibly can. If you leave a comment, 9 times out of 10, I'm trying to get to as many of them as I possibly can on every one of the videos that I put out. So make sure you leave those comments down below. We appreciate all the support. If you like fantasy football, if you want to win fantasy football, hit the subscribe button. You found the place to be in 2021. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week. We'll talk to you later.